Iman Gadzhi pulls in millions of views every month and makes thousands of dollars a week. A major reason for that success is his eye-catching thumbnails. They are bold, professional, and easy to understand, which is what makes them so appealing and clickable. This helps his videos stand out in a crowded feed. So in this video, I'm going to go in depth on why his thumbnails work so well and show you exactly how to create them yourself. Almost all of Iman's thumbnails follow the same structure: a picture of him, a graphic or text, and a clean, simple background. The structure is built in this way to get viewers interested in the video and not be overwhelmed. Here I have the thumbnail from one of Iman's most viral videos, and I'm going to analyze exactly why it works so well. Basically, if we highlight Iman here, he's always the centerpiece of his thumbnails. He's always in his thumbnails as well, which builds branding and makes his viewers recognize his videos in their feed. His thumbnails also make him have contrast from the background. He's always highlighted and illuminated with either dual lighting or lighting on one side. The coloring of the background is usually darker and it's more simple compared to Iman himself, which basically builds an easy contrast for the viewer to see him first. Now let's move on to the background of the thumbnail. We can see we have this timeline-like graphic in the background, which basically visually storytells from 1, which is the starting point, which is highlighted by the start here, which all the way leads to 7, which is $100,000, which is basically telling the viewer this video is about how to get from 1, which is where the viewer is probably at, to the 100K point, which is the 7. These numbers indicate the steps between this, and the viewer can easily interpret this information because the graphic is very simple and understandable. Then we move on to the actual background. There's a table and a simple wall background with not too much clutter and mess, which could overwhelm the viewer and distract them. One side has green and the other side has red, which follows the graphic of the beginning point to the end point. The shade of color is very light and it's not very distracting. If it was too saturated or too much, it could possibly overwhelm the viewer or cause them to not notice Iman himself or the graphic as much. Okay, now I'm going to show exactly how to make the viral thumbnail I just showed step by step. You're going to want to go ahead and get the ellipse tool to make the big 1 and the 7 and then the timeline graphic. So we're going to want to make it pretty big. Move it up a bit, duplicate it, move it to the other side. This is going to be the 7, this is going to be the 1. Then we're going to want to duplicate this again, but make it smaller. Maybe make it a bit bigger. It's going to be 2 here, and then 1 behind his head. And we're just going to duplicate this a few times to make the timeline. There we go. Now we basically have these. Let's move Iman in front since the graphic is behind him actually. And there we go. We have it basically like this graphic where it goes from the 1 to the 7. Then we're going to have the shadows, the numbers, and the line. First, we're going to want to go here, get the rectangle tool, make a line going from here, and put these beneath these. This line is like underneath. This line is basically connecting them, which is a better visual guide for the viewer. So we can see the 1 here is red, 7 here is green, and everything else is just white. So we're going to want to change this one to red. Just click on it. I'm going to go to color overlay, find a good red color, just like that. I'm going to want to get this, do the same, just with green. Colors are basically used for a visual guide to go from bad to good, or from starting point to goal, because colors are often good for viewers trying to understand the thumbnail better. I feel like this green is too saturated compared to the other one. There we go. Now we have the colors. Now we can see that the text here is white, since it contrasts from the color better, and then the rest are black text. 1, like this. Then we just duplicate it and do the 7. Move this, getting a 7, put it right here. There we go. Then we're just going to want to duplicate this text over here. Let's make this text black. Make it smaller since the circles are smaller. These are going to be the numbers for each step. A 2, just like that. I'm going to keep duplicating these. And a 3, that would be the 4. And a 5 and a 6. Just like that. We have a 6. Now we have all the numbers leading the timeline visually from the 1, just the starting point, all the way to the 7. Now we're going to want to clean this up just like Iman does in the thumbnail with the drop shadows, which basically makes it look a lot cleaner. So we're going to go ahead, click on all the circles and go to effect and then drop shadow. Make it not too harsh because we don't want it to be too much. And there we go. Now we're going to want to do this with every circle. Just add a drop shadow to make it stand out. And then we're going to want to add it to the back line as well. This. And there we go. We basically have the graphic Iman. Also before we go and add the text and the arrows, we can see Iman's thumbnail background is significantly darker and and has the dual lighting colors, which we're gonna do both right now. I'm gonna go ahead. I've already separated both of these backgrounds. It's very easy. You just select half of it, Control C, and then delete half, and then add it to a new layer. So each background layer is basically separated in half, just like this. So I can move it around freely, and then we have the base background on the bottom. I'm gonna show why this is needed later. So I'm gonna go to filter for this side. All right, now I'm gonna go to filter, camera raw filter. I'm gonna want to turn the exposure way down and the contrast up. And we're gonna want to go to color grade. We're just gonna want to make everything pretty red, and then play around with the settings just to see what you like the best. Turn the saturation down just a tiny bit and vibrance. I'm gonna go to OK. Now we can see it's significantly darker on this side. Now we're gonna do the same with this, just with green. Camera raw filter, turn the exposure down, then go to color grading. Just make this one more green, and there we go. Now we have the colors for each side of the background. Since these colors are still a little bit too intense, we're just gonna turn the opacity down just a bit. We can see our bottom layer is a little too light, so we're just gonna wanna turn the exposure down for that as well. Just here, adjustment layer, and then brightness and contrast. Turn the brightness down. And there we go. Now we have our red and green background. Now we're gonna wanna add the text and the arrow here, and the 100K as well. Add start here is the text that was shown. Obviously we want a more hand-drawn font, and then click, and then I have a font called Caution Script that looks pretty good. It looks pretty hand-drawn and nice. Obviously we're gonna want to make the color white so it stands out a lot better, like this. For the arrow, I'm just gonna hand draw it for the sake of it, because it's pretty easy, pretty simple, like that. There we have the arrow, and we just want to flip that around since there's the same arrow just here pointing at the 100K. So we're gonna want to just move this, and when you go to Control T, just flip it around like that. So we're gonna copy our text, move it here, and add the 100K like that. There we go. We have the 100K and the start here, just like in the thumbnail. There we go, looking similar. But yeah, that was exactly how to create thumbnails, just like Iman Gadzhi and his structure that he uses for his viral videos. If you didn't like the video, like and subscribe, and also check out this video if you want to learn how to make thumbnails like a pro.